how important is cash flow? So if there's an investor out there that wants to put money into an investment property but can't afford to lose money on the property, I guess that's the cash flow factor. That's the look at the rental yield. But still, you've got to make sure you find a good property.
Exactly. So cash flow is important. I think it's the most important factor. But anyone who's searching for capital growth won't care about cash flow until they don't have it.
Yeah.
Having cash flow and buffer and a little bit of breathing space can make the difference between a fire sale and riding out the storm and holding properties.
Mm-hmm.
And in tandem with capital growth properties, you can really buffer your cash flows as an investor. And you're dealing with a different segment of the market, different tenant experience, and often your capital growth cycles aren't necessarily in sync. So buffering is a really good concept. But for anyone who is looking at investing and cash flow is paramount for them, it might be that they've got a loan that requires them to receive a certain amount of income, and the bank wants to see that appraisal letter. Well, if the appraisal letter is calling for 4%, they know that they're either going for a souped up little apartment with lots of bells and whistles that probably won't deliver great capital growth anyway, or they're going into a region and getting a house that is rent ready and in a nice location that will definitely deliver 4%. And I could easily spend $400,000 and get 4% plus some in Ballarat and then in parts of Geelong as well. So if a rental income is critical to getting the loan, or if that investor has modelled out how much income they need to sustain their portfolio and to continue purchasing as well, then they will need to pepper their portfolio with some better yielding properties. And I always say to people, if your end goal is a certain amount of rental income into retirement and you've modelled out that you might need, let's say, 5, 6, 7 properties, well, every time you consider an acquisition, you need to ask yourself, can you demonstrate to the bank that you can afford the subsequent one? Mm-hmm. So you don't just look at your borrowing capacity for property 2020, you're also looking at what happens when you buy 2020, how much capacity have you got for 2021? And that is how I continue to springboard as an investor into more property, because if I maxed out my borrowing capacity on my 2020 purchase, I can't do anything in 2021. And it's all well and good to say, well, at least I've got a capital growth asset. But if you've stopped at just 1 or just 2, when you could have expanded your portfolio with a better blend of yielding and capital growth properties, well, then the person that thought it through and had the blend is likely to get to their end goal, when the person that just maxed their capacity is sitting on one property that they've popped, all of the eggs into that one basket.
Okay, you're preaching. I love it. It comes down to individual circumstances. Have your goals and your plan and understand where you want to get to, and don't just invest into a property because you want to, you think it's the right one. Make sure it's part of your structured plan. You understand where you're going. I recently chatted to a 63-year-old who's got a few cash flow properties and wanted to sell one to go into a capital growth property. And I go, but you're going to retire soon and it's not going to assist you in earning that income you need for your retirement. So you've got to rejig the portfolio. Kate.
Stefan, that's a really good point. You've mentioned cash flow. Sometimes the reason for a region isn't just cash flow. There's 2 reasons typically. The other one is time or lack of. So as you've just said, you dealt with someone in their 60s. If I've got someone who has limited numbers of years left in their career, I don't want to be the advocate that buys them something that keeps them on that treadmill for 10 years longer than they want to be.
Yes.
So if you're looking at your property and it's buy and hold strategy, and you want to think that by the time you retire, you might not have got rid of all of the debt, but your property has ticked over to cash flow positive, so it's no longer requiring you to stay on that treadmill. That's a well thought out plan. And often I'll have someone who might be earning a really good income, but if they're only earning it for another couple of years and they want to stop, I want to be the person that supports their retirement plan, not that tips it on its head.